Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to C1S Tours podcast. My name is Matt Graves, and my co-host each week is Kyle Grandel. What is up, Kyle?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing great. Thanks for having us, everybody, and welcome back to season 2. We got another great guest here. Looking forward to it. It's also Friday, so very psyched about this episode. But with that being said, yeah, we have Cameron Smith joining us today, based out of Dallas, Texas. He's a senior PM with C1S. He's done a lot of food and beverage work, working with big manufacturers like PepsiCo, 11 plus years experience in the industry, so got some great knowledge coming here today as well. Also experienced rock climber, does some snowboarding as well, hell yeah, and University of Texas Austin in civil engineering, so we're excited to have him on here today.
What's up, Cameron?
Hey, welcome.
What's going on, guys? How are we?
Doing
good, man.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
It's funny I see you shaking your head, Matt, about the UT Austin. I was wondering when we get into the UT.
We're getting into it sooner than I thought we would, I guess.
Well, here we go. Now we're talking.
Yeah, I did civil engineering for A&M, so.
Okay, yeah, CE, civil engineering. So yeah, at least we got that.
I got halfway through engineering school and was like, screw this, I don't want to be an engineer. And I looked to go a different route, and I realized I looked to transfer to, construction management or something like that. But then I realized like you could specialize in kind of construction project management. So that's what I did. And so I still have the paper. The paper still says civil engineering, and like my brother-in-law and people like that still introduce me as a civil engineer. And I'm like, I am not an engineer. Tell people that.
So no, that story definitely resonates with me. I went through a very similar situation through school. Learned pretty early on that the math and the science, I was good enough at it, but it wasn't really my passion. So started taking that deviation into the construction project management pretty early on as well. So very, very similar situation.
Yeah, I realized like I didn't want to be stuck in a cubicle somewhere, like doing calculations and drawings. And I was like, I got to get out and, boots on the ground or do something different. So
yeah, 100%. Yep.
So for people who don't know you want to give a little bit better story of your background than what Kyle gave?
Yeah, sure. So grew up in the Dallas area, just south of Denton, right north of Lake Louisville, Corinth, Texas, and went to Lake Dallas High School, and went to UT Austin as we mentioned. Studied civil engineering there, and got hooked up with C1S Group as a intern through a family friend who, hey, it's Cameron looking for, engineering internships. I was like, oh yeah, sure. I could use summer jobs. So moved back up to Dallas during the summer, going into my senior year of school, and interned with them. And then graduated school and kind of didn't really have any other real, job prospects, and thought I might want to go to grad school and, kind of go that path. And went back with C1S and interned again after I graduated senior year, and the rest is kind of history. They hooked me up with the construction part of the company, and eventually offered me a full-time gig, and I had some student loans and things that would be nice to pay off. So always kind of had the thought, hey, maybe I can go back to grad school. And here we are, 11 years later with C1S, and haven't thought twice about it since. So it's been a good journey getting here.
So what got you into civil engineering?
That's a great question, honestly. I mean, other than kind of being in a family that had kind of, engineering or engineering adjacent career paths growing up, just kind of being good in natural aptitude and math and science growing up. And, hey, you did good on your math SAT, hey, go be an engineer. All right. Sounds all right. So that's kind of really how I got into the engineering side of things on the civil side. And then, obviously, being a kid building Legos and just being passionate about buildings. And, I've always really kind of been obsessed with, the world's tallest buildings and the coolest superstructures and all that sort of stuff. So going into school, I was like, oh, yeah, let's figure out how these things actually get built. So that's kind of where that the decision to go into the civil engineering side of things. And at UT, it's kind of interesting. They don't have like a construction sciences program, or at least they didn't when I was there. So the civil engineering is kind of how you get through the construction side of things too. So, there wasn't really a whole lot of thought put into it, honestly. It was just, hey, you're good at math and science. Hey, building stuff sounds cool. Let's take that and see where it goes.
Well, I love to ask because like when I started at the University of Minnesota, I knew that I was going into electrical engineering, but I knew plenty of people that were basically starting towards engineering, and they may not have figured it out for their first couple of years, which discipline, which direction they wanted to go.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to find out like what drew people to one direction and one path versus another. So
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I don't know, you hear a lot of people talking about how when, you're 18 years old, you've got to decide on what you want to do the rest of your life. Going into college, and there definitely is something to that. Where hey, maybe I shouldn't have made that decision when I was 18 years old. It's worked out great for me to date, but it does seem like a kind of a crazy decision to ask 18-year-olds to make. But
that's what I was 18 and I thought I wanted to be a custom home builder, so I did civil engineering. Like that made any sense? But
right.
I mean, again,
better, right? Like
you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's how I got down that path. And then I got halfway through it. I was like, I don't think this is this isn't going to take me where I want to go. Then I found out like that's not even where I want to go. So
yeah. And my family background is more like on the technical side or the like tech side of things. Like my dad got his degree later in life, so I was kind of the first, person in my family, or at least my immediate family, that like had to make that decision of, going into a big major 4-year university and going to stay in the dorms and that sort of thing. So it was, my parents did a great job of helping me kind of through that process as best they could, but they didn't really know either. So it's just like, hey, hey, go pick something and go try to figure it out. So that's what I did.
Well, and to be fair for mine, my electrician background is what drew me towards electrical engineering. Otherwise, I pretty much knew engineering because same thing as you, Cameron, like math, sciences, and stuff. I was pretty good at with school, and I enjoyed them too, at least until college. But yeah, it was always engineering, and then my electrician background. I was like, well, okay, I like electrical, might as well do that. So
yeah.
So what does C1S? What do you guys do? Like, what does the company do?
Yeah, so we're a design build company at our core. We've got about half our company, 22 employees on the engineering side, which is mainly mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. And the other half of our company is the construction side of things. So we operate as a general contractor on the construction side of things. Construction professionals, PMs, estimating, superintendents. But our company got started, our founder, Matt, worked for a German design build firm and started in the clean room business and, very high tech, clean rooms. And he was a mechanical engineer. And kind of eventually through his career, he figured out, hey, doing this in a design build way might be a more efficient, project delivery method. When he started C1S back in 2001, it was mainly, and C1S means, class 1 solutions is kind of what it stands for. Class 1 clean rooms, highest, degree clean room you can make. But he kind of figured out early, like, hey, we're doing all this designing, but, we could build this stuff too. So that was the vision when he started C1S, is to kind of start bringing the construction side of things within the engineering side and kind of handling projects on a design build level. So that's kind of who we are, and we've grown, and there's different offshoots that have kind of come from that over the last 23 years. I manage our food and beverage division, which is I wear a lot of different hats with that role, but senior PM, so I still do a lot of project management, but also business development, account management, sales, prospecting, a little bit of everything. To help grow that side of the business. And then we've also got, in local to DFW, a lot of commercial, private schools, a lot of traditional general contracting, as well as kind of the more technical side of things on the industrial manufacturing side of things.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, and talking about the industrial manufacturing, that's the realm that I play in a lot, and working with the Fortune 500 manufacturers, and it's really interesting to me that you do a lot of design build with them, because I've seen it. Unfortunately, the ones that I've seen haven't worked out very well, but I think a lot of it is because of the contractors they chose, obviously.
Yep.
So I'm very curious to kind of hear your thoughts. I mean, do you guys experience a lot of different challenges working with manufacturers that you don't see with other clients, or do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, the manufacturing, the more technically minded clients, they are a little bit tougher. They're a little bit more demanding. They kind of know, a lot of them are engineer types that kind of know what they want and have opinions about things. So that can be a little bit of a tricky waters to navigate at times where, hey, we've got engineers that are signing their name to this stuff, and then we've got very technically inclined owners that are also very smart with their certain processes and their certain buildings that know exactly what they want. So it's always a little bit of a trade-off, and I think that is one good thing that we do that sets ourselves apart from other, EPC firms or design build firms, kind of in our same, that our competition is, we listen to our clients a lot. A lot of folks have, subject matter experts that, hey, this is the one way to do this, and they get into these kind of, pissing matches with owners sometimes that, hey, the customer's always right? So you've got to be able to navigate that in ways that don't, offend your clients, but also give them the best end result. So we like to, take all that as a kind of a collaborative effort, right? Like kind of bring the owner and their subject matter experts kind of into your team and use them as resources rather than kind of telling them what to do. It always ends up being a better experience and gets the client, a better product at the end of the day. So it is a very tricky kind of relationship to navigate with the industrial manufacturing clients. And also from a procurement standpoint, it can be a little bit of a tricky kind of to navigate as well of, these procurement folks are used to doing things one specific way of, hey, we issue, pre-engineering RFPs. And then after the pre-engineering RFP and we get 5 bids on that, then we go to the design and then, we get something designed and then we go out to bid to, 10 different contractors. So the design build project kind of method from a contractual standpoint isn't always there, but the mindset is always there with our projects. Whether the engineering side gets started first and they get a PO and then bring us kind of on board once they get to a certain point in design. How that exactly works is always a little bit different, but as a company, that's the mindset.
Yeah, well, and I just want to say really quick, and then I'll let you go, Matt. But your point was so important there about listening to the clients and using them as part of your team, because that on every single one I've been on that hasn't been very well executed, that's been the number one issue. Is the contractor comes in and they say, hey, this is how we're going to do this, and the client's like, no, you're not. this is our plan. You do it our way, and you can either get out or you can get on board, and it's always a battle. And then at some point, the owner takes back part of the scope, the building scope, construction scope, and then now it gets really muddy because now you have several parties trying to work over each other. But your point about communicating with the client, and that's so critical.
Yeah, you've always got to go into it with a little bit of humility, right? That you don't know everything in the world, and these people live in these facilities that are have been added on to, and there's a lot of skeletons in the closet sometimes in a lot of these facilities. So you don't want to go into it, with too much hubris, or you'll get bid on it.
Yeah. When you're having those struggles with people, saying like this, contractors want to run it their way. Is it normally contractors that aren't used to that environment? Like they're used to, most time in construction, right? The contractor owns the building until they hand the keys over, right? And it's not somebody else's building that they're coming into. Even if they're remodeling or something, even then, usually it's the contractor now is in control of things. And so it's a lot different. Are you seeing contractors struggling if they're coming from, a different type of sector into manufacturing?
Definitely. And that's also where a lot of our experience comes into play with. We're used to doing our projects in these facilities that are operating, right? PepsiCo, for example, on the snack side, the food side of things, their facilities, they shut down for 2 days in the fall and 3 days in the spring, and that's it. So you've got to work around these, product lines that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. So the product is the king, and you've got to find a way to get work done. Also in the estimating side, you've got to plan for it. And then when you're actually in it and you're executing, they could show up and you're, hanging ductwork above this line that they said was going to be down for 2 days. They say, hey guys, take a hike. We got to get this line up and running. Sorry. And then you're stuck for another 14 days of runtime. Then they, shut down for a little bit of maintenance sanitation window, and everybody scrambles in there and tries to do a little bit of work. And so you've got to kind of know that going into it, right? As if a traditional kind of contractor goes in there and thinking, hey, I've got, 6 months to do this project. That could be 6, 1 month intervals over the next 2 years.
Right.
So mobilization fees and, especially with us, we travel nationwide and do work pretty much everywhere for our clients. It's a lot of flights and a lot of hotel rooms and things like that you've got to kind of be prepared for. And then the other thing that's kind of a little bit different culturally with the clients we go with is not that any owners like change orders, but, on the traditional general contracting things, you kind of know they're going to happen, right? Rain delays, things like that, things get pushed out or things get changed and change orders happen. But on the industrial manufacturing side of things, those things are, the change orders are looked at way more stringently, I'd say. So you got to kind of know that going into it to avoid charging your owners for things that they think that you should have known going into it. There's a lot of different experiences that kind of allow us to do things for our client that, lead to just a better overall experience for them.
When you're talking about the shutdown schedules, I used to work for a mechanical and plumbing subcontractor out of Austin, and we did a lot of work at the Samsung plant up in kind of the north side of Austin.
Yep.
I didn't want anything to do with that. It was it was a whole nother ball game, right? But they come in and they shut down their manufacturing line for a weekend or a day or a night or something like that, because I forget what the math was, but it was like every hour that the thing's offline, they're losing $10 million in product, or it was some crazy amount of money, right? So they didn't want to shut it down, only in necessities. But so when they were doing their shutdown schedules, they were like basically choreographing everything to the minute. Like this crew would come in and they're there from like 8 a.m. to 8:05, and this crew comes in at 8:05 to 8:08, and then it's a bam, 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 because every minute was costing money. And so what's y'all schedules like? Are y'all that choreographed on stuff like that?
They can be. I wouldn't say like minute to minute necessarily, but they can be, in 15-minute, 20-minute intervals for sure. Mm-hmm. Especially with projects.
It'd be so tough to manage because nothing goes right.
Oh yeah. But it's kind of cool. I really love talking about like those strategic shutdowns that we do for clients, because it kind of scratches that like that Navy SEAL type itch that every guy has, of like, hey, it's a strategic critical strike mission where we've got to go in and extract this guy. We've got, a million contingency plans and,
you get the pipe, you get the drill, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very choreographed is a great way to put it, Matt, where, you practice, you come up with your schedule and then you practice it. You do dry runs and you sit down in a couple hour meeting with all your different subcontractors and your owners and, okay, guys, it's, 6 o'clock in the morning, on Easter weekend on, Good Friday, shutdown starts. What's the first step? Okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. Okay, what's next? Okay, what could go wrong? Okay, how do we plan for that? How do we have somebody on standby that can come in and move a fire sprinkler line that we didn't know was, in a location where we're running, our duct bank. Mm-hmm. So it's all these different kind of contingency plans and strategies that you're going into, and then obviously, halfway into it, the whole plan is kind of scrapped and then you're scrambling and you're trying to find a way to make it work, right? But ideally,
pack it all together because you got to turn the machine back on.
Right, exactly. But you're right. Like it's a very choreographed dance, and it takes a lot of experience, and it takes a lot of collaboration and communication with your entire team. And on these types of shutdowns, I like to call them anthills, because there's there could be a couple of hundred different contractors that some of them are involved in your project, some of them are involved in other projects that the owner's working on. And so that's another thing that you got to worry about is, okay, if they're doing a flooring project for this processing line that we're wanting to get above and do some work for our project, How do we make sure that their schedule is coordinated with our schedule?
Mhm.
So it's a lot of communication, a lot of coordination effort. And when it goes right, there's nothing quite as satisfying as when it goes right and everybody, hey, buttons everything up Sunday night and turns everything on and it works, and it makes all that effort worth it. But then when it goes wrong, you also know that, hey, guys, we've kind of planned for this, or we have some contingencies in place to where, hey, if weather comes in and our crane lift that we were wanting to do, has to push, a day till we got some better weather, or hey, tonight it'll be better weather. The wind won't be blowing as hard. So, hey, do we have our light plant set up like we said we would so we can light this place up and we can do our crane lifts at night? There's just a lot of things like that you're constantly thinking about, and those months or weeks ahead of that can be very, very stressful.
Mhm.
But once you're past it, it's super, super rewarding.
Yeah, well, and you're definitely speaking to me there, Cameron. I really enjoy the downtime planning actually when it comes to our project execution, because like you said, it's like it's choreographed. There's a lot of moving pieces to it, and if it's not communicated the right way, it's just not going to work. For example, I'm working on a pet food project right now. I'm going back there this weekend. We have a downtime starting for Memorial Day. Starts on Sunday, goes for 2 days. And our project has just a little bit of work going on, but the plant, they have, they got a shitload of things that they're working on. So there's been downtime planning meetings for the last 2 months every week to coordinate this effort and talk through it and say, all right, you're taking down this electrical panel. What are the outages? What are the areas impacted? And as long as everybody's bringing their information to the table and having a real conversation, that's how those downtimes go well and get executed well. And it'll be really interesting to see kind of how things go over the weekend, because it's been some really good planning and some really good communication up to this point. But there are always things that come up too, so that's always part of the fun, is the troubleshooting and just addressing the unknown. But
and you always get some subcontractor, some owner that always is pushing back on providing the amount of detail that you're asking for. There's always somebody that, hey, why do we really need to do this? Do we really need that? It's like, yeah, we do, because this is the one thing that won't be 100% coordinated with everything else, and it's going to throw a complete wrench into everything. The other thing I like about it, that is kind of the last thing I'll say about it, but is when a plant that's supposed to be going down will, hey, we had an unplanned downtime at this other plant. We've got to pick up another, 3 shifts of product, and it completely crushes the whole thing like a week out, or, hey, never mind, guys, we're not going to be able to come down this weekend like we thought we would. We'll do it again in 6 months. It's like, so there's always that risk too, because like I said, the customer's always right, and the product is key. When they're making that type of money and revenue on running their lines, it's hard to argue with the amount of money that they'd be losing. So it's
well, and the last thing I'll just add on really quick to that is, it's kind of back to your note earlier about coming into it with those expectations, just knowing it's going to happen. And from my experience, most of the owners I've worked with are very reasonable about it. That if you can show them that, hey, we talked about this for months, we were supposed to be here this date, we got to come back now. It's going to cost us some time and some money and materials, et cetera.
Sure.
Mobilization efforts. So this is the amount we think it's going to be. And for the most part, what I've seen is they're pretty reasonable about it, as long as you have a very good explanation, as long as you can show them the numbers. And they don't want to feel like you're trying to hide anything. They want transparency. And if you do that, from my experience, they're usually pretty good about stuff.
Yeah, transparency and trust is huge. With anything in our industry, in the AEC industry, right? If your owners have trust in you and you've got some skins on the wall you can point to of, hey, this is how we've done it in previous, projects or previous sites or previous clients, you build a lot of trust with that.
I'll just say too, I've never done any critical shutdowns like that, but just in general, when I was a lot younger starting out, I used to get so rattled, like when the plan didn't go according to plan, and you had to or somebody threw a wrench into it, and but then you just, kind of what Kyle was just saying, when you go into it knowing nothing's ever going to go the way it's supposed to go.
Sure.
And you have that mindset, and just maybe it's just experience. Maybe it's just enough times of things just getting screwed up, and knowing, okay, we'll work through it. It's just, I guess, for anybody kind of starting out, when you're getting frazzled whenever things aren't going the way, it doesn't matter what you're doing in construction. You're trying to coordinate hundreds of people at times, and people are people, and somebody's not going to show up on time. You're going to have a concrete pour in the the material tester isn't going to show up, or the concrete plant shuts down last minute. Something's going to happen. Like something always happens. And so just always having that kind of contingency mindset of like, okay, well, this happened. What are we going to do next? And like, just without getting upset about it, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. I like to think about it of like control your 50%. And I say that to our guys all the time, right? Of like, hey, if there's something that is within our control, we've got to make sure that we've got it under control.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole lot of other variables that are going to enter this equation, you know, throughout the process of doing any project. So if you've got your 50% buttoned up and you can point to, hey guys, this is what our plan was and this variable impacted it in this different ways, I think you get a lot of comfort from that. And experience, like you said, Matt, of just knowing things are going to go wrong and things are, you know, you start to trust that kind of internal problem solving that you've developed over your career, to know that you're going to be able to get it figured out. So yeah, I was the same way of like just the anxiety of not knowing kind of what's down the, you know, what's behind door number 2. But you know, the more and more times you deal with the mystery, then the more comfortable we get with it.
It's kind of, again, like I'm not doing those critical shutdowns where like every second counts and making a decision, but still like it takes a lot to rattle me anymore. Like once you kind of been through it and like, okay, well, shit, that happened. It's like that, you seen that Jocko Willink clip where it's like, he says good. It's like this happened. It was like good. Gives you opportunity to do this. It's like that happened. Good. And so like, it's almost like that, right? You just have that experience of like, okay, well, it happened. Then you can bitch and moan about it, or you can just move on. So
yeah, challenges and opportunities versus problems, right?
Well, and Matt, kind of to your point there too, I what I found with myself was that when I was getting frustrated about things not going according to the plan, I actually think I was over planning a lot of the time too. You know, trying to hit that by the minute schedule, or even by the 10, by the 15 minutes, where it's like, I'm sorry, but in construction, a lot of the time, it just doesn't happen. I mean, you have stuff that pulls ahead, you have stuff that falls behind. And I mean, yeah, on a critical shutdown, you want to be within the hour or so, but going more than that, I mean, depending on what it is, and, you know, good luck.
But most of us are doing year-long or 2-year-long projects, like a day here and there in a 2-year project. Like,
comes out a lot.
Come on.
Yeah, there's a right amount of planning, and I think it's actually part of lean is that, you know, there's a certain point where you put the effort in, but the plan is going to change, and so there's no point to even go into more detail at that point, because you have to be able to adjust for it. You know, that's the contingency, and so.
Yeah, I love keeping the schedule like as much of a black box as you can on some projects, right? Like you don't want to get into too much detail on it, or you'll start, you know, pounding your head up against the wall. But
and it becomes counterproductive, right? You spend more time scheduling than you spend doing, right? So, you know, Alex, when he first kind of into this introduction with us, he said you did a lot of mentoring. Kind of what's your mentoring experience?
Yeah, I mean, working with young folks that are coming into our company specifically, you know, I love to make sure I have. And if it's more of like a senior versus, you know, junior kind of positioning just from an org chart standpoint, right? But like, I do like to have that kind of mentorship mentality with these guys. You know, hey, even if it's just 30 minutes, an hour every couple of weeks or whatever, let's just set aside a time where, hey, we can kind of throw the project stuff out for now. And like, I can get guilty of that at times, to where, you know, when I talk to younger guys, that's all I want to do is, hey, where's this? You know, hey, have you heard back from this person? You know, kind of checking in on follow-up stuff, versus like, hey, let's take a step back. Let's go back to, you know, a 10,000 foot view here. And was there anything over the last week that happened that you just were like, why did this happen? Like, what could we have done differently to prevent this issue? Or, hey, why, Cameron, when you said this about this thing that we were talking about, why did you say it that way? Or why did we go about this project in this certain way? Just giving kind of a room or a kind of an environment to ask non-judgmental questions, and just kind of put my teaching hat on a little bit. I really enjoy that. So yeah, and I've done that with a handful of younger guys who have come in through our company. And I was kind of thrust into that pretty early on with I've spent, 33, I'll be 34 this year. But, I got kind of put into that position pretty early on with our company where, we're a pretty small company and everybody's got to wear a lot of different hats. And there's not a whole lot of places to hide in a company like ours, right? It's high trust, but high accountability type environment and type culture that we've got. So you've got to get young people pulling their weight pretty quick, or they're not going to stick around, or they're going to get, burned out, or they're going to go find something else. And it's like, hey, my buddy that graduated, construction science with me or mechanical engineering or whatever, they work for X and Y GC and they count doorknobs all day. Like it seems ways less stressful versus getting thrust into the, kind of the C1S culture of like, hey guys, if you're here, you're contributing and we're getting your, your boots dirty and, you've got to contribute pretty quick. But the other thing that I told the young guy the other day, that kind of broad experience that you get working for a smaller company where you've got to wear a lot of different hats. I feel that is it's rocket fuel to people's career. It's rocket fuel to people's confidence in our industry, of just getting into a conversation with an owner when you're, 22, 23 years old and you're having to navigate those sort of conversations. And yeah, they don't always go great, right? Like, I don't know.
It's so painful, but you learn so much.
Yeah, it can be painful at times, but I'm also a big proponent of like kind of feeling some of that pain, right? You got to be very delicate with it. Like you can't just thrust somebody into the fire and just leave them there because they'll get burnt out and they'll want to go do something different. They'll be like, hey, no, this sucks. Like you yelled at by my
boss. You can't hold their hand the whole way, all the time either.
So there's a little bit of a balance there, but I'm always I kind of err on the side of, hey, let them have some experience here. Let them get into these conversations. Right. Let's not spoon feed them, or we're also hiring people that we trust and we believe in, right? I mean, we have to as a small company. We can't hire 100 project engineers a year. We've got to hire one or two. So we've got to really trust that the experience and the effort that we're putting into these folks is going to show dividend and bear fruit down the road for us. Because that's one thing that, with C1S that we really, really pride ourselves on is just our company culture and how we care for the people that, work here. And, not everybody's just a number, and, everybody knows the owners of the company, and, we still do our Christmas party at the owner's company. It's whatever, 40 employees and their spouses, and it's getting a little bit small, but, we've got that type of culture where, you can go talk to anybody at the company. You can talk to the owners. You can, skip as many levels as you want. We've got that kind of culture. But to have that type of culture, you got to hire the right people, and you've got to nurture the right people into leadership positions, kind of leaders growing leaders, right? To where, we've got really, really ambitious growth goals over the next, 3 to 5 years. And to reach that, we're going to have to hire outside. We're going to have to hire expertise, but we're also going to have to grow our own. And, the 26-year-old, APM is going to have to take on more responsibility, pretty soon within the company if we're going the direction that we want to go. So, that's sort of like on-job mentorship I really am passionate about.
Are you guys having any trouble finding people right now? I'm just, curious. I mean, because, there's the labor shortage, which impacts a lot of the trades work, but there's also, less people are interested in getting into construction and construction management. Just everybody wants to do engineering sometimes. And, I just kind of curious what you're seeing as far as people coming in, and if you guys are having trouble, or if you're just having trouble finding, good talent. Maybe there's a lot of applicants, but it's a lot of people that, aren't working out.
Yeah, we've definitely had some job openings go longer than we've wanted them to over the last couple of years. Even on you mentioned engineering, Kyle. On the engineering side, it's almost been a little bit worse. Where
really?
We're trying to hire mechanical engineers with 10 years experience and some project management experience, and you think you've got somebody that you like, and you start, going a little bit deeper with them, and then you offer them, and then, hey, this other big firm that I work for offered me, 50% salary increase. And you're like, okay, well, we can't really compete with that. So that's really where we've had good candidates that we like and folks that we feel like would be good fits, but they end up kind of getting money whipped with the companies that they're working with currently, and which I totally get, right? Moving companies, I've luckily never had to do it. I've been with C1S my entire career and don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So, it can be a little bit daunting, especially with the kind of the state of the industry. And, we got an election coming up, and who knows what the next couple of years look like. But, it's a daunting task to move somewhere, especially to a smaller company where, I get it. Like, hey, I'm used to doing 100, 200 million projects, $200 million projects. And now I'm doing, $10, $15 million projects. So I get there's a little bit of kind of, apprehension around that. But on the younger side, I think you're exactly right that the construction kind of mentality with the younger generation is, I don't know, getting on a job site and getting in the foxhole. Like, I don't know that, there's a ton of 22-year-olds out there that are really looking to do that in, modern society. But which makes, when you do find some that are willing to do it and do a good job, they really shine. So it's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword that, you don't have the number, but the folks that are in it and are going to remain in it, they're good eggs.
What's
that's kind of where? Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we talked about it last season actually a little bit. Is that because there's shortages with younger generations coming in? I mean, that just means a lot of opportunity. Anybody that's coming in that wants to do it and is interested in it, I mean, anybody will take you. And so you get the pick of where you want to go, as long as you can show them that you want to work hard and learn. And making mistakes is okay. You just need to own up to it and learn from it. So.
Yeah. And if you've got the right type of person and the right type of personality, I think, those are the things that are a little bit harder to coach, but if you're willing to make a mistake and, football coach analogy, but make it going 100 miles an hour. Right. And then that stuff is forgivable and you can coach that stuff, but you got to have, the kind of the tenacity and the willingness of getting involved.
Going back to the mentoring thing, you talk about, you kind of have these conversations with your mentees, right? It's like, what is something that, the whole, I'm kind of rambling here, but, this whole podcast is really called CM Mentors, is really kind of be a resource kind of for the next generation coming up and all that sort of stuff. So what's a piece of advice you would give to that 23-year-old fresh graduate that's like maybe paired with somebody like yourself, like it has a mentor, but what can they do to get the most out of the relationship?
It's a good question. And I was actually, Matt, I was reading an old blog of yours that had like 20 bullet points or something like that. I think it was yours or one of yours. It was on the website, but no, I liked a lot of that was on that list. But I also liked just the idea of just willingness to get involved. Be willing to ask what you can do. A lot of the times that happens, and I've been guilty of it in the past with younger guys and people that are just getting on your team and like, hey, what can I really trust them with? Hey, I could give this task to them, but it might just be easier if I can just do it myself and I can just do it real quick and get on to the next thing. Right. But what I've seen younger guys or younger folks do that's helpful for me is them coming to ask, hey, what can I do? Hey, Cameron, hey, can I do this for you? And maybe have a couple of little specific things involved or in mind of, hey, I know, we're just getting this project started and we're getting it set up, but hey, can I go ahead and pre-populate the submittal log that we're going to need? Or hey, can I go ahead and publish these drawings out to everybody? Or have some things in mind from your experience. Yeah. And hey, can I go ahead and do this? Or even if it's just an open-ended question of, hey, how can I jump in and help? I think that's always helpful for PMs or superintendents with a lot on their plate. is, hey, I might not stop to delegate today. But if I've got somebody that's coming to ask for it, that's an easy thing. I can think of 5 things off the top of my head. Just, hey, yeah, go do this, go do that, go do that. And then once you're kind of tasked with something, try to do it to your best to completion, rather than kind of stepping in each like checkpoint along the way and asking questions about it. Because that is one thing that'll get me a little bit frustrated is, hey, I asked you to go do this, and then 5 minutes later, hey, how do I do this? It's like, well, kind of
how do I do step 1? How do I do step 2? How do I do step 3?
Yeah, just do what you think, because a lot of the stuff that we do, it's not rocket science, right? A lot of it is common sense, and a lot of it's just like general problem solving.
Yeah.
So if you can start kind of flexing that muscle from a young, if you're a young APM or project engineer, early in your career, it's going to do you so much good throughout your career if you can start kind of developing that problem solving and kind of taking things and running with it and taking load off of the rest of your project team.
I've seen similar too, where it's when you're busy, you're project manager and you're busy and you got all this stuff going on, and you may have a younger guy, maybe an intern, like, here, you got an intern, like, sweet. I don't know what to do with him, right?
Right.
Real skills and real talents. You're trying to train them, but you're trying to give them responsibility at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's like, when they come to you and be like, hey, I want to learn how to build the schedule. I'm like, sweet, sit down with me while I build the schedule and we'll go through it together.
Right.
Or like they give you specifics, right? Or like, I had a younger guy that was working with me. He wasn't an intern. He was a, an assistant PM, but, I was like, what do you want to learn? Like, right. Like, and so I think we were talking about budgeting. So I was like, perfect. Next week, I got to budget all this stuff. So we sat down and kind of started doing it. So I talked him through it, kind of just threw it at him. Right. And he went and crushed it. So, but having kind of, especially too, if they can tell you what they're interested in, kind of helps too, because you got to wear 12 hats as a PM, right? So at least get them to learn the stuff they're interested in first.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and a little pro tip for the listeners too. My first mentor, I wouldn't say he said it the best, but the message was always, your job is to make my life easier. And if you think about it that way for your boss, your supervisor, your mentor, whoever it is, it's kind of true. Like, if you can start understanding the process and the systems and be able to anticipate it, look ahead, make their life a little easier by being able to jump ahead. And like Cameron, like you said earlier, hey, can I start getting this stuff pre-populated? Can I start sending things out? Like, you take a load off of them. They're only going to give you more stuff. You're going to learn even faster. You'll advance your career faster. That can go a long ways.
Yep. The other thing that I'll say, and maybe this is like a little bit further down in someone's career, but the importance of meeting prep, I think, is something that I'm extremely passionate about, whether it's a subcontractor meeting or an owner's meeting, or even just an internal, hey, 30 minutes, we're going to get together and kind of talk about some status type things. Taking the same amount of time. If it's a 30 minutes meeting, take 30 minutes before that or earlier in the week to get prepped for it. If it's an hour long, 2 hour long owner meeting, take that amount appropriate time to go into that meeting prepped. I see a lot of that with project managers, especially younger ones, that kind of go into a meeting, with maybe a half-cocked agenda and, hey, I've got some things that I want to look at, but I don't have them pulled up, or I don't have them 100% updated. It's like, take the time to prep for a good meeting. Because that's one thing. If your meetings with your owners or your subcontractors aren't going well, then that, finds problems all the way through your project. So if you can prep for your meetings well and take the time it takes to make a good meeting go well, then take it. It's always time well spent.
That's huge, because even when you experience, you should prep, but things get busy and you don't fully prep. You're like, okay, the meeting's going to be about this, and this. And you get into the meeting, and if you're not fully prepped, like, you need to talk about 5 things and you only talk about 3 things, right? Like, crap, we didn't get into this and this, and I didn't have that ready. And so then it's like, now maybe you only have like maybe once a week or every 2 weeks, FaceTime with the owner. And so then you're like, well, I guess I got to wait till next week. And that can throw a wrench in everything you got going on. So.
Well, and the funny thing is, I find the biggest hack to meeting prep is, first of all, knowing the meeting's even coming up. if you're not looking ahead in your schedule 3, 4, 5 days, and you know what meetings you have coming up, other way around, if you know which meetings are coming up it kind of gets your mind thinking about that.
Mhm.
And so you notice things and you take little mental notes throughout the week, and your meeting prep may not even be actually having to sit down and formally do it. But Cameron, like you said, maybe throughout the course of a week, you've spent a half an hour or an hour finding things or thinking through things or solving problems that, okay, you go in this meeting, now you are actually prepped for it. But just knowing it's coming up for me is half the battle sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And that just goes to like another point of like just the importance of time management.
Yeah.
You know, especially now. And I don't know if you guys have felt like this, but, and I work a lot remotely now when I'm not on a project site. But just our schedules are so jam packed now versus pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we had way more kind of free working time where not every minute, not every hour of your week is, there's some blocked out time. That
so easy to throw the Zoom invites and schedules and meetings on your calendar.
Right. Instead of kind of an impromptu pop into somebody's office or, a phone call, it's, I've got to put 30 minutes or an hour on somebody's calendar. So the importance of kind of navigating that, especially with the younger generation, I don't know that that's going anywhere. Right. Like we're always going to have remote works and, our architects and our engineers, with C1S, we've tried to get them back in the office, and I think we're slowly pulling them back to like 2 days a week. But those guys, they work great remote, and they're able to stay efficient and stay productive. So I don't think that part of the industry is ever really going to come back to the full office thing. So being able to navigate that early on in your career as a young person coming into the industry is going to be huge.
Well, even for that, you guys have in-house engineers and stuff, but like most not everybody's design build, right? So a lot of times you've got a contractor and an owner and an architect and an engineer and a subcontractor and a subconsultant. You got all these parties that are obviously in different offices. It could be in different states.
5 different states, yeah.
Yeah. And so, it used to be like, okay, well, we got to get everybody to this meeting next month, and we're going to sit down and talk about this meeting. But the cool thing, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, because I can more quickly like get everybody on a quick Teams call or work through some issue, and it saves a week's worth of emails back and forth and try to do, different conference calls and all that mess. So it's good, but at the same time, it's bad because everybody just wants to, hey, get on a Teams call, get a meeting. So meeting you to death.
Yeah.
And you guys are totally right that, the trend now since COVID is there's a lot of Teams meetings, Zoom, Skype, whatever you use. And that's not going to change. So my challenge for the next generation is figure out how to do it the most efficiently. Do you need the meeting or not? Can it be a phone call? Pick up the damn phone. People don't like calling people anymore. Sometimes it's a very simple 10 or 15-second conversation. Just pick somebody up and pick up the phone, call them instead of having to send an email that takes now 2 or 3 or 4 times back and forth. But find the most efficient way to do it and operate the project that way.
And does it have to be an hour meeting? Everybody does a default hour meeting, and most of the time, the meeting will expand to fill an hour, but it's a 20-30 minute conversation. But you spend 15 minutes talking about somebody's dog in the beginning.
Right.
And everybody shows up late. So the meeting even starts 10 minutes late. That stuff pisses me off when I got things to do. And like, I'm sitting there and just like, let's go. Like I got things to do. And I'm sitting here waiting for, the decision maker to get on the call or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
that, Matt, is a huge pet peeve of mine of, folks that are late to meetings. And I think it's been kind of the same sort of thing as the more meetings and people are, hey, a meeting run 5 minutes late. Now I'm 5 minutes late to this meeting. It happens a ton on the client side.
Yep.
Especially with like the manufacturing facilities we work in. Those guys are, chasing fires, and they're running around doing all sorts of different stuff. So expecting those folks to be on meetings, when they should be, is a little bit of a fool's errand, but it does derail some things pretty quick. If, you're sitting around kind of waiting on the decision maker, you don't want to be, thinking about or, repeating yourself 3 or 4 different times with different stakeholders coming on the meeting. So it's a challenge for sure.
Well, and just to agree with you there, Cameron, and they're probably my best client is, their saying is always 5 minutes late is still on time in their world.
Oh my God.
Because they are from meeting to meeting a lot of the times. But they're also like, they're on the floor looking at stuff, or, they got big problems they're dealing with all the time. So it's like, you got to give them a little bit of grace too, but it's also.
Yeah, you do. Vince Lombardi's rolling around in his grave right now, though, hearing that.
All right. Producer Alex says we gotta move to the word association
right.
game. So what we do is we throw out a word and just without thinking, just kind of the first thing that pops into your mind. You watched the one with Alex, so I think you've seen how it goes.
Mhm.
So you ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think explicitives are allowed, I suppose, because everyone has so far. So
Okay, good.
First word is change order.
Inevitable. I hate issuing them. Like I said earlier in the call, I don't like giving owners change orders, but sometimes they're just they're inevitable and unavoidable.
Next word is bid or estimate.
Time is the first thing that comes to me, and I don't know if that's just with our current state of things. We just hired a new pre-con manager and a new estimator, so get anything out of our estimating department's taking a lot of time lately.
It takes a lot of time, more time than anybody thinks usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do it well. GC.
It's hard to not say general contractor.
When you say general contractor, what comes to mind?
Okay, that's better. Responsible.
I like it. OSHA.
Important.
Oh, I see. You're playing politically correct. All right.
Politically correct.
Trying not to get in trouble. BIM.
Underutilized, at least on our side of things. I think we could be doing a lot more with it.
I think it's an industry. It's underutilized. And the last word is Aggies.
Thanksgiving.
It's coming. Are they playing back again? Is it going to be on Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
is it going to be on Friday?
I hope so.
Is it? I mean, it's not even Thanksgiving Day, right? It's going to be on the Friday.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
I just remember that always being part of the Thanksgiving weekend growing up. Texas, UT, and Aggie. It'll be fun. I'm glad we're playing against each other again. I never got a chance to go to Caulfield either, so I'm gonna have to make that work at some point.
Where are they playing this year? Do you know?
At Caulfield, yeah.
Is it Caulfield? Right on.
I think that was one of the requirements of Texas coming in the SEC is when they played first, they had to play it.
We had to get something out of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure this year is the year that you want us coming into Caulfield, though.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, no. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kyle, you take us away?
Last thing I want to say here before I hand it over for our wrapping up here, but we have to offer you, do you have anything you want to plug in, any job opportunities or positions, any events, anything like that you want the listeners to know about?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for young folks to get started with. I mean, the project engineer and the APM roles are always ones that we're looking for people. Project managers, estimators. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you can't find enough good people in the industry right now. So we're a growing company, so we're always looking for folks.
Excellent, good deal.
Well, everyone, Cameron, I appreciate it. Kyle, thanks. Alex in the background, thank you. And so I appreciate you coming on and joining us, Cam. I think it was a good conversation. I learned a lot.
Absolutely, I had a ton of fun.
That is the food and beverage design build world is not a playground I play in at all. So I enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
It's a really tough world to play in. Like I said, I've seen a lot of crash and burns. I've seen some good stuff too, but Cameron, a lot of respect, man. And it's great talking to you and meeting you.
Yeah, likewise.
Anyway, everyone.